Greetings, YouTube! The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And today we are talking about the spell Telekinesis. This is the legacy version I have up here right now. We're going to be looking at the 2024 version. There are several very big changes that happened to this spell. We're going to talk about what those are. And we're going to look at a couple of classes from the 2024 version that you can use with this spell. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. Share this video, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. All right, back in the day, this was one of the spells that we gave an S to. Are we going to keep it an S? I'm not sure, but let's talk about the legacy version first so we get the baseline, and we're going to know what happened with the 2024 version. So it is a 5th level spell. Transmutation takes 1 action, range of 60 feet. It lasts for 10 minutes, which is a very long time. Most combats only last for 3 or 4 rounds, and it requires concentration. Verbal and somatic component, so there was nothing to worry about there with that. So you gain the ability to move or manipulate creatures or objects by thought. So when you cast the spell and as your action each round for the duration, you can exert your will on one creature or object that you can see within range, which is 60 feet. And then you can do 2 different things. If it's a creature, you can try and move a huge or smaller creature. You make an ability check with your spell casting ability contested, so that would be a d20 plus your spellcasting ability, which was probably intelligence, because this was a wizard, sorcerer, or warlock. It could be charisma, so it's either one of those 2 things. You made a check within range contested by the creature's strength check. Now, strength checks for most creatures, especially big ones, were pretty high, so this sometimes was a problem. However, the Warlock could hex this, and because it was an ability check for a creature, they would be at disadvantage. So if you won the contest, you move the creature up to 30 feet in any direction, including upward, but not beyond the range of the spell. They were restrained, and if they're in the air, then they're suspended in midair. On subsequent rounds, you could use your action to attempt to maintain your telekinetic grip on the creature by repeating the contest. So if you move them 60 feet in the air, and you failed your check, they fell. Now, with objects, you can move an object up to 1,000 pounds. The object cannot be worn or carried. You could automatically move it 30 feet in any direction, not 60 feet, 30 feet, but not beyond the range of the spell. So you could move it 30 feet at a time, but not further than 60 feet from you. So if it is worn or carried, then you have to do this ability check with your spellcasting ability, charisma, or intelligence, contested by the creature's strength check. Again, hex would put that at a disadvantage. If you succeeded, you pull the object away, and you can move it up to 30 feet. That's it. So you can exert your control on objects and with your telekinetic grip, such as manipulating a tool, opening a door, etc. So let's take a look at the new spell, because there are some very significant changes with this spell. Still 5th level, still transmutation, still lasts for 10 minutes, still concentration, still a range of 60 feet, still verbal and somatic components, still usable by sorcerers, wizards. Now, aberrant sorcerers get this one, and they get this one prepared, and then the great old one, warlock, also gets this one as well. So you gain the ability to move or manipulate creatures or objects by thought. So when you cast the spell and as a magic action, so now they're defining the action. That's very minor. That's a very minor change. Your magic action on your later turns, you exert your will and you do one of 2 things. Again, it's creature and objects. With creatures, you can try to move a huge or smaller creature. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw. Here's the change. So it is no longer a contested roll. It is now a strength saving throw, and that in itself gives an issue. So Hex now no longer works with this because it's a saving throw and not an ability check. And typically, again, creatures that are big have very high strength saving throws. And strength is probably the worst one out of all of them, all of the different ability saving throws to do in Dungeons and Dragons. So not going to be easy to do that. You can move it up to 30 feet in any direction within the spell's range. So let's take a look at the old spell. So you can move it up to 30 feet in any direction. So you could lift it up 30 feet in the air. You could get it up to 60 feet in the air, but only 30 feet at a time. Until the spell ends, until the end of your next turn, the creature has the restrained condition. Okay, that's the same. And if you lift it in the air, it is suspended there. If it falls at the end of your next turn unless you use this option again. So you could just not use it, and it's going to fall. Or if you fail, if you try to use it and you fail, like that is, it makes its strength saving throw, it's going to fall. Now with objects, before it was a 1,000-pound object, now it's huge or smaller objects. There are lots of huge objects that weigh way more than 1,000 pounds. Way more. A block of granite that is 15 feet cube weighs way more than 1,000 pounds. So it is not limited by that poundage anymore. It's limited by size. So if the object is not worn or carried, you automatically move it up to 30 feet. That's the same. If it's worn or carried, then the creature that is wearing it or carrying it has to make a strength saving throw. Again, that's a change, so Hex doesn't work on that anymore. Or if it fails, then you pull the object away and move it up to 30 feet, and then you can exert finer control just like the old spell. So the big change here is these strength saving throws. So how, before we were manipulating that through Hex. So how do we manipulate that now? How do we get it so that the creature can't do well on that strength saving throw? Well, it is a spell usable by sorcerers, and aberrant sorcerers automatically prepare this, which is awesome. Okay, that's great. But we want to talk about the sorcerers. So first off, you get innate sorcery, and that increases the DC of your spells by 1. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Secondly, you get meta magic, and you get meta magic options. Primarily, the one we're going to be talking about is Heightened Spell. So when you cast this spell that forces a creature to make a save, you can spend 2 points to give one creature disadvantage against saves against the spell. So that's all saving throws, all of them. So now that creature, if you got your innate sorcery turned on, which is going to probably last for the duration of a combat, and you have heightened that spell, Telekinesis, then that creature is now going to be making saving throws at disadvantage against a higher DC for that particular spell. Aberrant sorcerers don't really get anything super special other than being able to prepare this that does anything with the spell. So when you cast a spell of first level plus from your psionic spells, you can cast it by expending a spell slot as normal, or by spending a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level. So we could use 5 sorcery points to cast a spell instead of using a spell slot. I don't think that that's necessarily worth it. The other class, now this is not a class that can use this spell, but it is a class that if you have enough levels in it, you can do this unsettling words, and you can give something a subtraction to their saving throw. So you use a bonus action, you roll your Bardic Inspiration die, and they get a penalty to their next saving throw. That is a big deal as well. So if you can figure out how to get those things combined in there, that also will help and give a penalty. And we're not going to really talk about this, but wizards can use this spell. And if you have a portent wizard, a divination wizard, you can use the portent ability to make them essentially, if you rolled a low roll, to fail a saving throw. So you can pull that one in. I think the most powerful of all of these is the sorcerer. And particularly just the base sorcerer class, the base sorcerer abilities of innate sorcery and the heightened spell from the meta magic. I think those are great. So, what are we going to be giving this? Well, considering if we didn't have ways to manipulate this spell so that creatures would fail, then I would probably move this down to an A. But we're going to leave it at an S because we still can manipulate it. And it is very useful for moving creatures around. I love forced movement. Moving creatures over pools of lava, pits, off a cliff. I used this. We were doing a session of Return to the Tomb of Horrors, and Acererak used this to grab players and slam them into his phylactery, which immediately sucked their soul out. So that was a very good use of this spell. All right, that is what I got for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody